The following is a CSPN Media podcast presentation.
Hello, and welcome to Know the Score. I'm your host, Don Delarente, and we're here to talk about the Phoenix race from NASCAR this week. So we're here with our weekly NASCAR review that you can find on CSPN.us. You can also check out the visual of this on YouTube.com. Just go over to the CSPN media page, become a subscriber. And yes, we have visuals to go along with this audio version of this podcast. And you can also check us out through iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher Radio. Just do a search for CSPN Media or KTS Pod. So we're coming into this week's race in Phoenix with storylines being, for the first time this season, we're using the new short track package. Changes to the spoiler and the diffuser created 30 less downforce than they had last year at the short tracks, trying to make the cars harder to drive, meaning less time on the throttle, and the guys can maybe get closer together and create more passing. On another note, NASCAR, they confiscated the louvers of the Hendrick and Collick cars after practice. So they suspect that there have been some alterations to parts that should not be altered. And we've come to understand that with this new car, that is definitely a no-no, because last year, RFK Racing, they got hammered with a large penalty for doing adjustments to the wheels. So it will be a massive blow to Hendrick Motorsports and Collick Racing once NASCAR decides whatever the penalties will be for those particular infractions that they find on those louvers. Kyle Larson, for good news for Hendrick Motorsports, is on the pole this week in Phoenix. So we take the green flag with Kyle Larson on the pole, but William Byron takes the lead in those opening laps. And again, no cautions, very little passing once we got through the initial start of the race, and William Byron cruises to an easy stage 1 win. So your top 10 in the first stage: William Byron, Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, Denny Hamlin, Tyler Reddick, Ryan Blaney, Ross Chastain, Kevin Harvick, Brad Keselowski, and Kyle Busch. For the fourth week in a row, nothing really interesting in the first stage as far as cautions and accidents or wrecks or anything like that. Just guys trying to get to fill their cars. Cars getting spread out, especially at Phoenix. That's usually the style of race that we get. Somebody hits it just right. They usually kind of pull away from the field, and we wait for accidents or some changes through pit stops to maybe see some passing to shake up the running order. As we start stage 2, that's exactly what happens, as Kyle Larson wins the race off pit road during the stage break caution and takes the lead on the restart. Denny Hamlin, he starts the green flag pit stops in stage 2, and Kyle Larson maintains the lead after those green flag pit stops. Kyle Busch had to serve a penalty for speeding and an uncontrolled tire during the pit stops. The first caution for accident comes at lap 139 when Eric Almirola hit the wall in the front stretch after breaking a wheel. Very curious accident there, malfunction for Eric Almirola. the actual wheel came apart, and half of it was on the track, and or 3/4 of it was on the track, and there's about a quarter still left on the car once they pulled into pit road. So it'd be interesting to see what the fallout is from that once they get a chance to look at that in the R&D center. From both the team and NASCAR, I'm pretty sure there will be a greater explanation upon what happened upon that last week. Kyle Larson, he wins the race off of pit road after that caution flag and the pit stops that followed, and he wins stage 2. So Hendrick Motorsports once again this week flexing their muscle. William Byron, Kyle Larson dominating just like they did last week out in Vegas. So we get to the stage 2 top 10 where we have Kyle Larson as your winner, William Byron second. Old man, Kevin Harvick, the old master, creeping in. He's at third. Keselowski's in fourth. Reddick is in fifth. Hamlin in sixth. Bell in seventh. Blaney in eighth. Chastain in ninth. And Chase Briscoe in 10th. So stage 3 starts, and Kyle Larson leads off the restart, but gets passed by Kevin Harvick on lap 269 for the lead. A caution flag waves with 8 laps to go when Harrison Burton spins and shreds a tire. 6 drivers take 2 tires on the pit stop, but Kevin Harvick isn't one of them, so he loses the lead and he restarts back in 8th. We get another caution on the green-white checker when Ty Gibbs gets into the wall, as well as Noah Gragson and AJ Allmendinger coming together in the same corner. 2 separate accidents, but 1 caution there. So we have another restart, and then that restart, William Byron passes Kyle Larson on the outside with the help of Tyler Reddick to take the lead, and he holds off Ryan Blaney for his 2nd straight win. So Willie B starting off fast this year, back-to-back victories, making and staking a claim to maybe Hendrick Motorsports having 2 dominant drivers this year. We really haven't seen Chase Elliott yet due to his broken leg so early in the season, and he really didn't have that great a performance when he kind of was in there as far as running top 3, top 5. So we'll get a real chance to see what they can do as far as William Byron goes. In that 24 car, he seems to have a lot of confidence. He's openly talk about how Jeff Gordon has been helping him as far as his racecraft and just building his confidence. And you can really start to see it start to show. He's starting to kind of put things together, maturing as a race car driver, especially when it comes to these big moments and these big restarts and figuring out how to get wins and not just finish in the top 3 or the top 5. Once he has a car capable of winning. So William Byron, once again, sees the confetti fall upon him and his team. He gets to take the trophy home. The rest of the top 10 looks like this. Ryan Blaney in 2nd, Tyler Reddick in 3rd, Kyle Larson in 4th, Kevin Harvick in 5th, Christopher Bell 6th, Chase Briscoe in 7th, Kyle Busch in 8th, Alex Bowman in 9th, and Josh Berry brings it home in the top 10. So very good finish for Josh Berry. Just consistent run, doing what he needs to do, staying out of trouble, making the laps. Definitely experience in the car makes a difference. Experience with the team, experience with the just the overall feel of what he needs to do to get that car to his liking where he can drive it successfully. So kudos to Josh Berry getting that number 9 car into the top 10. Also like to give a big shout out to Kyle Busch. He definitely came back from a rough day. He got behind in that 2nd stage pit stop where he had to serve 2 penalties. So for him to come back and drive his way into the top 10 through those restarts, definitely a good look for him. Chase Briscoe, strong run. The Fords traditionally do well at Phoenix. So it was a good run for Chase Briscoe. He's needing a top 10 type day, and he got it. Christopher Bell, consistent as always. Not really a threat to win, but definitely threatening in the top 3, top 5 most of the day. Kevin Harvick, he was the the sentimental favorite and the hard luck loser because he had him covered. He was building a 4-second lead, pulling away when the caution flag comes out, and not gambling with the 2 tires or not moving with the pack with the 2 tires, having the 4 tires. He just got too far back and got boxed in on their 2 restarts and just couldn't make it work to get towards the front. Kyle Larson dominated the second stage going into the third stage, and it looked like it was going to be kind of his day until Kevin Harvick actually ran him down and passed him. Kyle Larson just didn't have the long run car that Kevin Harvick did. Tyler Reddick, with his first top 5 of the season, his first real good run of the year. I think he finally had some success here in the way that the Toyotas were running at this track. Toyotas definitely had a consistent day. They weren't the fastest team on the track all day, but they had cars that were definitely in the top 5, top 10, and holding their own there. So he gets a chance to finish the race, had a chance possibly to maybe get a win on the restart, but he had nowhere to go. So he got boxed in on the outside, gave William Byron the bump to get past Kyle Larson on the outside, and he finished in third place. So good run for Tyler Reddick. And Ryan Blaney, a guy who's traditionally very good at Phoenix, his teammate as well, Joey Logano, who was not very good in this race, but Blaney, he managed through the restarts and the pit strategy of the 2 tires to get himself up into contention. When they went into the dog leg, it looked like maybe he might have a chance to kind of pull something off, but William Byron, with the help of Tyler Reddick, like I said, on the outside, was just too strong. And Ryan Blaney finished second, so that's a very respectable race and finish for him. So I know that he's not happy with the coming up short for the win, but thinking big picture and long term, as far as if you have a chance to win the championship, I think he'll like what his team did and how they fought and got that car up into the runner-up spot. There will be a lot of fallout from the confiscation of the louvers. So the things that William Byron and Kyle Larson have done in the first 5 races will be docked heavily here soon when the penalties are announced. NASCAR is probably going to come down heavy as far as team points, driver points, playoff points, money as well. And that's going to set back these drivers greatly, especially William Byron, with the wins and the playoff points, the stage wins that he's got. And it's going to decrease a lot of the advantage on the scoreboard that they've had over the competition to start the season. So we will see how they bounce back. Another little side note to end the race and to kind of end the show on was Denny Hamlin and Ross Chastain. Again, they get together like magnets. They just can't help it. They find a way, no matter if they're near each other, they're going to get into each other. And there is a video there of Denny Hamlin just trying to slam into him and wreck him, and Ross Chastain holding his own, not allowing it to happen. But they both dropped out of having top 10 finishes into the 20s. Denny Hamlin went up on his podcast and basically said, "Hey, I was getting trained by the cars around me. I could see that if I didn't do something or, I wasn't going to be able to get the finish that I wanted." Realized who was on my outside and said, "You know what? If it was anybody else, I'd probably do what I could to race him a little bit cleaner. But since it isn't and it's Ross, then I'm going to use him up and we're going to have a bad day together." And that's exactly what happened. And they seemed to have a conversation. And then he said that they basically, understood that, hey, they need to race each other with a little bit more respect. And they're going to call it a truce and wipe the slate clean. And from Atlanta going forward, they hope to have a newfound etiquette when it comes to how they get raced when they get around each other. So we will see what happens going forward, because now with Denny's admission, NASCAR is probably going to have to take notice and bring something down upon him, because in words now he's admitted to trying to wreck somebody out on the racetrack, whereas Bubba Wallace last year, with words, actions that were definitely detrimental, got suspended for the race that he did and fined and so forth. So maybe not a suspension due to actual, the Ross Chastain being such a good driver that even when he's trying to get wrecked, he was able to hold his own. Maybe that will be Denny's saving grace, and it'll just maybe be points and some money. So we'll see what NASCAR has to do. They're going to have a busy week when it comes to laying down these fines and levying this money and these sanctions. So next week's storylines definitely will be a lot juicier than this week's storylines, and hopefully the race will be a little bit better. Phoenix is not really the most exciting race at times if you don't have a lot of cautions to generate a lot of restarts. Restarts are the most exciting part of that race, unless you can get somebody like Harvick who can run a different line and run guys down if you get long green flag runs like we did in stage 3 to help him get that lead and almost a win. So until next week, when we talk to you about the race from the Atlanta Motor Speedway, you're going to have the guys who are usually good at the plate races, the drafters, Denny Hamlin, Logano, Keselowski, Bubba Wallace, Brian Blaney, Stenhouse, those guys who usually make those cars do what it do on those big restricted plate tracks should be the ones that are up front here. If we get the similar pack style racing, people are thinking that maybe through a winter and some aging that the cars may be separated a little bit more. We may get a more traditional 1.5 mile style race, but it will be interesting to see how things look once they get out upon the track this weekend. So until next week, I'm your host, Don De Laurenti, and now you know the score.